This is Snuff Disco with their track Take Back on Tell Craig Your Story podcast.
Take back one another, only time can tell.
Craig your story.
Hi guys, Craig here. Welcome to another edition of the podcast, Tell Craig Your Story. Today we'll be speaking to Rachel McInerney. Now Rachel was born in New Jersey, USA. She graduated from art school in Pennsylvania before moving to Shanghai in 2018. This is where she collaborated with pop punk band Fliphouse, doing vocals for the second studio album and touring with them across China in 2021. Now, during this time, she also formed shoegaze and techno band Snuff Disco, which included two members of Fliphouse. And she goes under the DJ name of Gargoyle Girlfriend. Now, Rachel was a huge part of the Shanghai music scene, being in all different bands and doing all different side projects. Now, Rachel is one of the most recognized and talented musicians here in Shanghai, and we really are going to miss her. She's going to leave for Hong Kong on Thursday. But before we go, please go to our website. We're at Podbean. Tell Craig your story at podbean.com. We have a link tree there which tells you where Tell Craig Your Story podcast is streaming. We are on all the major streaming services. We are also on all the social medias, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Make sure you're subscribing to get all the latest updates. And we have VK for our Russian listeners and WeChat for our Chinese listeners at Tell Craig Your Story. All right, here we go. This is my chat with Rachel on Tell Craig Your Story podcast. Hi Rachel, how are you doing tonight?
Hey Craig, doing good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Thank you very much for your time. I know you're super busy. I saw that message that you're going to leave us.
Yeah.
Sad. Not just me, but a lot of other people. You've been huge in the Shanghai music scene and the art. Let's tell us the reasons why you're leaving Shanghai. It couldn't be because of the pandemic, right?
I mean, that's definitely like a catalyst of it. I mean, when I moved here to China, I had no idea what China was like. So it was very random that I was coming and sort of going out in another random, unknown way. But definitely a big part of it is to go be with my boyfriend because we were separated for nearly 3 years and not even able to see each other at all.
You're waving the white flag for long-term relationships.
Yeah.
That is a credit to you.
I don't know. People tell me all the time, they're like, oh, well, I could never do that. They're standing next to their partner of like 8 years.
Yeah.
They're both like, we could never do that.
Right.
But for us, like, we really didn't have a choice, and it got to be like a couple months after the border was pretty locked, and we were both like, yeah, checking in, like, do you still want to do this? Yeah, I still want to do this. You still want to do this? All right, we'll just keep checking in. And he's been just such a great support. Like, every time I'm nervous for a show or like whatever the hell it is, like, he's just on the phone, like, go baby, go, like, just nothing but positivity coming through the line. And so we afford each other that. And yeah, it's been magical to when I can just talk to somebody, really get to know them, especially when the world is going through such a crazy thing. Like, you're doing it together. And so yeah, he's really been my rock, and it seems vice versa as well. So it's been, yeah, beautiful and crazy, and people are shocked, but it seems easy to us, like, especially after all this time.
Does it really matter what other people think as long as what you think, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, all relationships are so different, right?
Yeah.
Like, as long as you are checking in on what your needs are and if they're being met and communicating that, like, learning how to communicate that. I mean, like, for me, this has been such a way you have to just talk about it, and there's no other choice. So.
Yeah. And where did you meet? Is it in Shanghai or was it before that?
Yeah, we met here in Shanghai in the summer of 2019, and we really hit it off. It was just really beautiful from the start, and he would go back and forth to Hong Kong and Shanghai and other places around China for work, and then his family is from Hong Kong, so he went there, to go and see his family, and then the borders shut, and and that was that.
Yeah, right. And you finally got to meet him in May, was it? Did you say?
Yeah. This May, I was able to fly out there because they lifted it on May 1st, and we were like thick into the lockdown. It was like almost 2 months we'd been indoors. And I lived with two awesome European lads, Kieran from he's Irish, and John, British, and they were just like so fun to live with. We were playing video games all the time, just like they taught me what smashing cans meant, you know, they taught me a bunch of lingo, and like just the three of our accents in one apartment, like it felt like a sitcom all the time. They were just hilarious. So it wasn't so hard at first, because, you know, when you're in good company and stuck, you know, in an apartment with two really great dudes, it's easy, you know, and they were really into music as well, so we would just like blast music and have fun.
So for you, were you planning to sort of go to Hong Kong or go back home, or what was your sort of plans?
So it wasn't really the plan for me to go anywhere, especially because the implications of going out, it was almost for sure you wouldn't get back in until everything was cleared up. And by the second one, I had a lot of commitments. I had the band, I had the events, I had lifelong friends here, and when it got really rough, I was like, my family was like, you can move, like you can just come back, like it's okay, like we'll help you with the money, blah 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 blah. But like the thought of not being able to say goodbye to these friends that like we've had to forge this family here for the last like 3-4 years, like that was unbearable to me. Like I couldn't think about leaving without seeing them again.
Yeah. For you personally, were you writing music? Were you doing art? Like.
Yeah, in the first one, I really started to try to make my way around like DAW software, because like I'm not really instrumentally talented, and I've only really been pursuing music for like a couple of years. It all started here. So I started to write kind of like lo-fi, like synth pop in my room in the first lockdown. And I was writing about like a lot of love and longing, because I really missed my boyfriend.
Yes.
So some of the first songs I ever made by myself were in that time. And then Snuff Disco started then too, because we were able to meet up in Ryan's apartment.
Right.
And it was really funny because he would sneak us in too. Like he would sneak us in on the scooter past the bow-ons, because like friends weren't supposed to be like coming over to your apartment, but like he would like put us on a scooter and a helmet, and like we just looked like somebody else. So we would sneak in and just write. We didn't have an intent to start a band. It was just me, Ryan, and Tyler, and we just started messing around, and pretty like immediately we were like, "Wow, this is cool!" Like, we really can't wait to play this for people.
And it was a little different to what was actually a lot different to Fliphouse as well. So,
yeah. They had been doing Fliphouse for a while before I even came here. Yeah. So they already had that ground. So let's talk a little bit about your music a little bit later, but I want to talk about why did you come here? That's my big question. Right. Like, especially coming from like a Western country, English speaking. Normally the people that I've spoken to, and in myself including, I would say, Mum, Dad, I'm going to go for 12 months to get a bit of experience, famous last
different culture, and then come back and then settle down. Sure. 6 years later, I'm still in Shanghai. Sure. Oh, well, in China anyway. So for you, why China, and then what was the first reaction and your feelings?
Man. It was incredibly chaotic and turbulent. Yes. I'm not going to lie. So I just graduated art school. I went to a school in Pennsylvania called PCAD. And that was my first real time being away from home. But I was only a state over. And I studied illustration, and art school is just fun. It's just so fun. You're just creating all the time. You're trying new things. You're with creative people. And when I was graduating, a lot of my friends were working minimum wage jobs and didn't really know what to do, and that terrified me. So I was like, I need to do something crazy. I need to. And my parents were like, yeah, just come home. And I think they were so loving and protective, that they just wanted to be there for me and support me.
Yes.
But I was like, if I don't learn how to pay my own rent and like have my own job and like do this, then I won't do it. So I heard like through the grapevine that like you could go to another country and like teach English. And I was like, well, where in the world like should I go? And I thought about Germany, I thought about Berlin, and then when a listing for China came up, I was like, I don't know anything about China, like at all. Like in the American media, like you're seeing more of Asia now.
It's all the bad things, right?
Yeah, but like 5 years ago, like you picture China and like you don't even see a city. Like when I told people I was gonna move there, people were like Disney's Mulan? Like, does it look like that? I'm like, I don't think so, but I didn't know either. And I was like, all right, well, if I can like go to a foreign city where I don't speak the language and I can learn how to be an adult, then like I can do anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I
you're
can
spot
try
on.
anything.
You're spot on.
And my family had never really lived even more around the country. Like they've always been in like New Jersey. And so when I broke the news to them, they were just like very scared, very protective. My dad was a cop, and like even though I was in New Jersey, I was never even allowed to go to New York City. You know, like far too dangerous. But I grew up in a very rural area, so like in my mind, like a city was like the most fun idea. So they tried just about everything to stop me from going.
I can imagine why. I mean,
Yeah.
like I said before, they only see the bad thing that's on the news, and it's just. But when you actually come here, when I've had family come here as well, and they go, "Oh well, that's not as bad as I thought it was." No wonder. Now I understand why.
No, totally. It's also worth mentioning. I was with a guy that they didn't totally trust, and we had been together for like 2 years while I was graduating school. And he had a friend out here who was teaching English, so that was sort of like our way in, and we were like, yeah, let's go do this together.
And a couple of years ago, would you say it was pretty easy for you to get the visa and to come into China?
Yeah. I mean, if you have a degree and your background checks out, that's pretty much it. And I knew that coming in with a legit training school like EF, like they're gonna do the papers right.
Yeah.
Because you hear those horror stories about people that accept the job, they don't know better, it's like a schwanky visa. But I knew that they would do it right because they're such a big company. But yeah, it was pretty easy. And now I see why they take like anybody. And
first reactions of coming here, I can remember my sort of first, and it was just like, I mean, I've been to Southeast Asia before, so I kind of knew sort of Asia, but not China. China's just like totally. So for you, speaking the language, trying to get around, trying to fit into you come straight to Shanghai?
Yeah, I'd never really even been out of the country. It was my first time having a passport. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. You don't go hard or
Brave
go home.
girl.
Some say it's brave, but I think I was just.
I mean, if you said
the chaos of it.
I mean, if you said Canada or something like that, yeah, okay, but China, People's Republic of China.
I look back on it now, and I feel bad. My parents have a kid like me. You know, it was so out of left field, and my dad was just saying like, you could go visit somewhere first. You don't have to like just pack up all your stuff and move there. And I was like, no, to really experience it, I need to throw myself like into the thick of it. And I did, and here we are.
But now, how much of a stronger person has it made you? Confidence?
Oh, astronomically.
Yeah. I'm
a whole different person, and even just after my first few years here and seeing all the things that I do and everything, like their tune changed real quick. They're like, we're so proud of you. Actually, this was the perfect thing for you.
And
only
just
you know that. And
just to play like what if? Do you think you would have been able to do everything you've done here back at home?
maybe, but not with the like autonomy and freedom that different venues and openness that people have here to merging the expat and the local culture and really having that be such an inspirational fusion. No, it would not look the same. And I don't know if my like musical growth would have been as exponential. Yeah, for sure.
Because a lot of the Chinese people are just thriving for music because they just don't get that a lot of music coming in.
Yeah.
And
I always found that so fascinating.
All these huge international bands, like my favorite band is Metallica. They're one of the biggest bands in the world.
Yeah,
and I meet all these people, and I just never heard of them. AC/DC from Australia. No.
Yeah, I mean, before the internet, it was like maybe you'd get a tape shipped over.
Yeah.
So like in China, like I heard a Chinese guy say like Avril Lavigne got so big, but like 10 years later, they got her like first CD.
Yeah, right.
And then she blows up here, and it's stuff like that. It's such an interesting culture delay.
Well, Queen was an example. They brought the movie out, the Queen, and it was winning all these awards in the US, Best Actor, Best Movie, and then the pressure was on, like, hey, they got to show it in China.
Yeah.
So I think they cut like 8 minutes of like the gay scenes or any sort of drug reference, and finally it come out. Then all of a sudden it was like you get into a DD and then we will. And it's like they're playing Queen as if they're a brand new band.
And how cool to hear that for the first
time
in like 2020. That's so interesting.
So I think that's great, but I think they have a more appreciation for musicians.
Yeah.
How I feel, anyway. So, actually, sorry, you've got a party tomorrow? Is that public? Or is
yeah.
Okay.
Anybody can come that wants to come, like, everyone's a friend.
Yeah.
It's a big space as well, so,
right.
I'm really excited because, it's just anybody that wants to come can come, and it's even going to be, like open decks because I can't be DJing the whole time. I'm going to say goodbye to people. So I tell my friends, I'm like, just bring your USBs. Like, I'm normally like coordinating shows like so meticulously, but this is like, no, let's just go.
And when do you plan to leave? When are you leaving?
My flight is on Thursday.
Right.
Yeah.
That's why I was like,
it's Monday.
Come on. I've been wanting to do this for a while now, so it's great to finally do this. So let's go back to where you were born, US. Were you from Pennsylvania?
No, so New Jersey.
New Jersey.
For the most part of my life, and then I went to school in Pennsylvania. I went to college there.
Jersey girl, right?
Yeah, grew up in Jersey.
So tell us about that. And you said that your father was a police officer.
Yeah.
How then did you get involved in sort of like arts and music and creating things? Like, where does this talent come from?
Well, definitely my mom. My dad's like pretty creative as well in his own ways, but my mom was a performer in the 80s, and when I was growing up, like, she would always be lugging heavy karaoke equipment to bars and stuff. Right. But I was there as a toddler all the time, and they would throw like really awesome house parties that I would see as a toddler and then growing up throughout my life. They really liked to host parties, the two of them. So my mom, she still makes music today, and she still is, so involved in the community. So
right.
I totally learned all that from them. And even when I was growing up and having my own birthday parties, like my mom, like, it was a big deal, like, let's throw the coolest birthday party that your class has ever seen, so like I set up for parties here, and I feel like all of a sudden I'm like making goodie bags for my classmates. It doesn't feel so dissimilar, and I realized like in the past couple of years, like I've always loved doing that, and from my mom, so yeah.
And going to school, were you artistic at a young age, or
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely always drawn pictures, like as soon as I could hold a crayon. Like I just never put it down.
Right.
And I wasn't really the best student in other areas. Like I really like writing, I like creative writing, and I like drawing, but everything else was like pretty much tanked. And like find out you have like crippling ADHD like in 8th grade, and like meds help a little bit, but I always knew that like creativity and art and painting would be my path. Like I remember we had a French class in like the 3rd grade, and we learned about Van Gogh. And the main takeaway I got from that was like he died poor and depressed and sad.
Didn't he chop it? Is he the one that chopped his... No.
Yeah, no, he did.
Chopped his zero?
Yeah. He made most of his paintings in an insane asylum in a span of like 5 years. He had never held a paintbrush until this like span of creation. But we learned about that in elementary school, and I remember being like, well, that's my fate. I'm going to die a poor creative, but it's just art is what I like to do. So that's just... So everything's been an upgrade from being penniless. Yeah.
But that's the thing about, like, you listen to interviews of other musicians that are very successful, and they said, even if I wasn't successful, I'd be still a poor artist.
Yeah.
Still doing my painting or still writing music, just as long as I could pay the bills, and that's okay. Just fortunate that
you just need
in
to
the
do
right
it.
time. Yeah.
And I had always liked music, but even when I was a teenager, my mom was like, surprise, I got you guitar lessons. I was like, I don't want to play guitar. I didn't want to make music for the longest time. Up until I was like 23, I heard some music in just this state of my life where I'm about to uproot and move somewhere else. And I think like it hit me in this way where like I heard a couple of different like folk artists and stuff, and I was like, I need to be able to communicate like this. And just like that, it was like I needed to do it like as badly as I needed to breathe. And I was like, oh, but I'm starting so late. I'm 23. I can't play piano and I can't play guitar. Like I felt like doomed at the start a little bit, but then I was like, I just need to do it. I need to mess around.
So you were playing, you said you were playing guitar and your piano, was that it?
Badly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But were you always confident in going up on stage and sort of...
No. Not even public speaking.
Right. So when did that sort of change? When you come here?
Yeah, I came here and I was making stuff on my computer, but I wouldn't even post it. Like I was so shy to even post it anywhere. And I had moved here with a guy, as I mentioned earlier. And our first 6 months of living here, like things got really turbulent with our relationship or just like cohabitating. And it got physical one night. And that was really hard. But that same week I met Ryan because he had just made a post on Reddit where he was like, oh, my one of the people in our bands like hurt his back, would love to have like a female singer like come and write some stuff. And I just met him that week, and then that horrible thing had happened, and I realized that I had to get away from this person. I had to get away from the apartment, like live somewhere else. And Ryan was like, I got you. Like, that sucks that happened to you. Like, come hang out at practice. So when things were really, really hard, I remember him just being like, come hang out at Fliphouse practice. And I would go to C's and sit on the couch and watch them practice. And those were the couple hours out of my day that weren't so spirally and felt so alone.
Forget about it.
Yeah, and I was with these people that they all had this bond, you know, like the Fliphouse boys, they grew up together.
Right.
You know, and they accepted me right away. And they do like pop punk, so they're actually singing about a lot of like anger and a lot of feelings, and they're really just like screaming it out. And I remember being like, okay, so like this is what like musical catharsis is. And they were like, get on the mic, like let's write something. And the first song I wrote with them was about, you know, sort of finding yourself in a domestic violence situation and how confusing that all is. And then I was like, I love this. It feels so good.
Yeah.
It feels so good. So yeah.
So I come in a little bit late with the music scene as well, and when I watched Fliphouse play, they would do like maybe 3 or 4 songs, and then you would come on, and I was like, are you in the band? Are you just jamming with them, or...?
Right, well, I mean, from this moment, they sort of, like, adopted me in a weird way. I didn't have many friends when that shit went down, so they just sort of took me under their wing, and we wrote that song, and they were like, Rachel, you gotta perform your song. Right. And I remember the first night we were gonna perform it at Union Time, like, I was trying to get myself out the door, and like I had a panic attack, and I was like, I can't be on stage. Like, this is so scary. This is so terrifying. I've never done it before. We practiced the song a bunch in that little room, but like to really bring it to people, and like especially I'm singing about something that was so traumatic to me. And then eventually I did it. I pushed myself out the door, and I did it. And that song specifically, just being what it is, I've had like other women come up to me and be like, I really register with the song. Like, what's it about? And to sort of share the story, and then say like, damn, stuff like that has happened to me too. Like, and then you're sort of like allied in that. And like, that's when I was like, that's the power of music.
Yeah. I agree.
Like, you are
totally agree.
Coming together about this thing, something terrible that happens to a lot of people, and it's really messy, and then suddenly it's like you feel seen and they feel seen, and at the end of the day, you're together with your mates, just like doing what you love. Yeah. So they showed me how to do that, and how to be on stage, and how to be there like as a unit, and like. I owe them everything for that. Like, literally everything. Yeah.
That's really, really cool. I want to speak a lot more about Fliphouse a little bit later.
Sure.
Let's get back to the USA. So, you're growing up, you're going through high school, you graduate from high school, and then what is the decision there? Did you always sort of want to do something in the arts field, or... Tell us about why you sort of chose that.
So I was in Jersey, and I'd grown up on like a horse farm, me and my sister and my parents. When it was time to sort of choose a school, I always knew that it would be art for me, or illustration, painting. So I saw a couple of schools, and then I chose Pennsylvania because it wasn't too far from home, and I think my parents didn't want me to go too far. So I went there, and... it was cool because, like, you didn't have to be in a dorm. Like, you had your own apartment, and you got apartments with people. So that was really cool to live on your own for the first time. And not only that, but, like, in a house of other artists.
Yeah.
So that was so cool because there are other painters that also have, like, a skull drawing, do it too. And, like, a warrior painting, do it for. And, like, so it was really cool because I met... I fell into a group of like juniors and seniors when I was a freshman, and I moved into their house, and they were like really like rough and tumble kind of guys, but they were like so good at painting, and they were really into like the fantasy painting scene, so like Wizards of the Coast, like Dungeons and Dragons, and Magic the Gathering and stuff like that. So really cool fantasy realism, and I thought that was just the dopest thing ever too. So we were really like a work hard, play hard troupe, and I think because of that, like you gain the respect of like your peers and the professors as well, who allow you to do things your way, and you sort of navigate that respect in the school. Like maybe you missed a couple classes, but you come in and your painting's awesome. You know what I mean? Like learning to navigate those professor-student relationships and where that sits, I think was really, really cool for me.
And having your own sort of style as well, not sort of, you can have people sort of having their own ideas, but at the end of the day, you're the one that's drawing it. And I looked at it again tonight, and you do have sort of like a style happening, and we actually asked you to do our band's thing, which is really cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
Do you have like certain themes when you're drawing, or do you just whatever comes into your mind, or how does it all start?
It's so chaotic. Like, there were other students at my school that really had a style and like a consistent color scheme and all that. And if you look at very popular artists on Instagram, they stick with their like the thing that works, the color scheme. And for me, like, I love cartooning, but I love realism, but I love photography, and I love sculpting. So I always felt torn that I was always doing all sorts of different things. But with like poster design and album cover art, like, that can look so many different ways.
Yeah.
So I think even though I felt like graphic design was a little tedious to me, in college is actually what I do most of now, because you can do it in the music scene and be that connected and useful, because like this sounds mean, but like it pains me when I see like a shitty gig poster. I'm like, ew, no. And I know that like not a lot of people have the resources or like can do it themselves, but like I just want to make it look awesome so people want to go.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, it's a cool challenge.
And that was the thing, like when you did it for hours, I saw the black and white and it's like, yeah, it's really cool. And then when you put colour to it, it just totally just changed it. Like we've got like a pink and purple one, and then we've got like a darker colour. Yeah, it was really cool. I really like it. So, is that something that you want to do in the future as a job? Like I guess you're just doing teaching here in England, teaching here as a teacher. Just you're in China. I don't think that's going to be a full-time job.
Well, I teach art actually. I've been teaching art for the last 4 years, which is really cool because a lot of autonomy. I can teach whatever I want to teach, you know, and it lets me really delve into what I was saying before. I like everything, so I get to do everything. So teaching art, I think that's something I can always fall back on. You know, obviously being a musician isn't the most lucrative thing in the world, but hopefully moving more into like events organizing, like I've done the past couple of years, which was an accident. Like I said, I got on stage with Fliphouse, and that's as far as I thought it would ever go. But I remember when I was in college, there was a neighboring town called York, and Lancaster, the school I went to, it's like this little city surrounded by like Amishville and farms. And when my roommates and best friends who were like older than me in the schooling, when they graduated, I like, you know, felt a little lost in the school. I'm like, man, my friends are gone. This is tough. So I started befriending people in the local music scene more.
Yes.
And there's specifically a band that I befriended called Analog Watts, and they became my good friends. And they, one of their parents had this dairy farm out in York, this like big dairy farm in this townhouse, and like their parents were never there, so they would throw these like basement shows.
Right.
These like DIY basement shows where everybody would come. And it's like a house rager, but they were so responsible. Like they like they would card, and they would like not allow underage drinking, like just for everyone's safety, and they were so wholesome about that.
Underage drinking, do you think there was some big
I mean, maybe, but they were really like looking out for safety as much as they could, and the basement shows were just so cool. And I remember being like, these are people that are doing it themselves. You know, they're not relying on venues. They like threw this community together, and people are having like a blast, and everyone's so nice to each other. And so that was my real exposure to like DIY concert events and stuff. And I think I carried that with me for a really long time. And when sort of events that I started putting together here came about, it felt a lot like that.
And what music were you listening to at this time? Obviously, you haven't started playing in bands yet, so what were you listening to? Was it pop music, or were you actually getting into sort of the more obscure sort of sounds?
Definitely rock-based stuff. So like rock and punk and indie. I'd always listened to that kind of stuff. When I was really young, I was really into like 80s hair metal.
Come on.
Actually.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Maybe there is now, but...
I just loved it. And but I also loved, like, Peter Gabriel and, you know, anything that had a gated reverb drum. I was just, like, so into from a really young age. And then when I got older, it was more, like, emo and indie. And then I fell more into, like, folk in college.
Yeah, right.
So when I discovered, like, Neil Young and Jason Molina, who did, like, Songs Ohio and Magnolia Electric Co. And I found an artist named Spencer Krug, and he did really experimental stuff, like, in so many different projects. And that's when I was like, wow, like, you can really, as a musician, do whatever you want. Like, you don't have to even stick to a genre, because I remember feeling like I liked a lot of different things. So when I got really into that music, that was when I was like, I need to learn how to communicate like this. So yeah, it was mostly rock. And then when I started DJing here, I got really into electronic and dance music. Right. Because that had a whole different function, as I found out.
Totally.
Yeah.
And were you, like, going to concerts, or, like, just, you were talking a little bit about going to these underground sort of things, but were you going to concerts at that time in the uni? Because you would have had all these bands coming through, all the big festivals, right?
Sure, here and there. Made our way to Philly to see bands I really like. I saw, like, Shearwater. Again, I'm really into niche artists, as it seems, so they're not so inaccessible. But, it's so funny. One time, it was, like, the dead of winter, and I had a midterm coming up for my environmental sciences class. And that band I was telling you about, Analog Watts, they texted me at, like, 9 o'clock one night, and they're like, hey, we're driving through, do you mind if we stop by? I was like, yeah, stop by, let's hang out. And they brought, like, 3 things of boxed wine, and we drank, like, so much of it and had the most fun time. And I woke up the next morning in a car at a gas station with them in the car, and I was like, what are we doing? They were like, we're going to the show in Vermont. You said you wanted to come. And I was like, oh, man. So we're halfway to Vermont, and there's, like, a blizzard, but we see the band Starfucker. I don't know if you're familiar with them. They're really cool.
Punk?
It's kind of like indies, new wave, synth rock. Maybe you would recognize one of their songs, but anyway, the blizzard hit, they got snowed in there as well. So the show actually happened, but I was going to miss my midterm. So, because I made this decision blackout and on the cuff. So I emailed my professor, and I told him the truth. I thought about all these lies, but I'm like, you might as well just tell this man the truth. Like, he's been nothing but good to you. Yeah. So I broke it down in an email. I said, I'm sorry. It was a crazy night. I'm in Vermont to see a band I really like, and the blizzard hit, and I'm not going to make it back. And he was like, you know what? That's fine. But if you write, like, a 5-page essay on the thing that you loved learning the most about this class, pass. I'll grade you on that. Yeah. And I'm a better essay writer than a test taker. So I, like, scored the jackpot, and I was thrilled to write that essay because, like, it was an unforgettable experience. It was so cool.
Yeah, right. So you got the band, you got the music happening, you've got your art. So when you actually graduated, when did China come into the mix of it? And you were talking before about your parents not really sort of understanding, but what about your friends as well? Like, was it tough to sort of leave? And then the other question is, did you get to travel to other places before you would come to China, like international?
No, I came straight here. And it felt like such a huge decision because, you know, the drama of it, having never even left the country and then just packing up and moving. But my friends thought it was, like, super exciting. They were like, yeah. You know, they were so supportive. And while I was, like, getting ready to graduate, I was finding it harder to complete assignments because I would procrastinate by trying to make music. But again, I was still really bad. I didn't know a chord. I didn't know a thing. But like I would just spend so much time playing music badly by myself. And sometimes with these bands that I was in with, and they're really we would just jam, and it would just be so much fun. And so it was getting harder to get my schoolwork done because I was like starting to really have this love for just messing around with music.
Did
and
you
not
record?
caring about the
No recordings. Just. Sort
I
of
have
experiment.
some, but they're painful to listen to now. They really are, but it was the start of something.
That's
sure.
right. You got to start from somewhere. Everybody's got to.
And so again, with the feeling like, oh, if I'm gonna learn how to pay rent and taxes and have a job, let's do it in a foreign country because that'll be like on hard mode. It was the same way in my mind with music. I was like, if I can put myself in a foreign country, then there's no distractions from your past, and you just have to dive. You just have to get good. And I heard like psych rock was on the rise in China and like shoegaze, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna start a shoegaze band. And it was all like pipe dreams, right? But as it turns out, not so much because all that shit happened.
So when you finally come to Shanghai, first impressions?
Wow. Just really exciting off the bat because it's such a futuristic city.
Agreed.
Again, like nothing like you heard about or were prepared for. Again, like people being like, Disney's Mulan? Like villages?
But you come at the right time. 2018 was like a great time for Shanghai.
Yeah, bands were coming in.
It was pumping. Like everything was just...
Yeah, it was awesome. It was really cool. So immediately all the party scenes, and I remember my first night out, I went to this place called Zapata's. It's since been closed. But I went out and we sat with a bunch of my friends' friends and yada yada yada, and it was a table of like 10 people, and I got drunk, and then I had this moment where I heard like 10 different accents happening at once. And I've never been at a table with 10 different people from 10 different places. You know, like Jersey's really not that mixed. And so it made me so emotional. Like I just started sobbing. And my friend was like, are you okay? And I didn't know how to explain that, like, here I am in this global city where it's just so alien to me. And all the people at this table have something in common. We all came here.
Yeah.
You know, and we all just want to have a good time. So everybody's nice to each other. You know, like all the strangers are just, you automatically have a lot in common because you're here. And I remember that hitting me like really, really hard.
And that's the one thing that I've learnt since being here. All the communities, it doesn't matter if it's like the gaming community or the comedy scene or the music scene or the different sort of styles of music, they've all got this really close, because we're all here, like we're trying to survive in China, and you know we're all in the same sort of situations. Our families are so far away, so you sort of like
totally
grab onto them. And
totally,
you said the Fliphouse guys picked you up when you were down. So I really think that's one thing that is great about, one of the great things about the Shanghai environment, living here. But how is your Chinese? What are some of the things that you've sort of learnt being here in China, like with the Chinese culture?
Yeah, I mean, that's the other thing. Like, when I first landed, obviously a lot of different things were overwhelming. Learning how to take transportation and getting from A to B, you know, like I'd never even been on a metro system before.
Did you learn any Chinese before you come?
No. But the thing is, like, when I remember the first couple of weeks I was here, I was really stressed out. I did something wrong at my job, you know, and like that's what is allowing you to be here, so like don't mess it up. And I went outside and I was crying, trying to get home, and I didn't know which bus to get on. And I was crying, and this old Chinese lady like came up to me, and it was pouring rain, and I didn't have an umbrella. And she came up to me with her umbrella, and she put it over me, and was trying to comfort me and tried to understand what was going on, but she was speaking just Chinese, and I'm typing in the translator, like, I don't understand, yada yada, but I need to get on this. And she, like, it's as if she threw away her schedule and was like, I'm gonna get this girl on the right bus. You know, and in, like, Philly and New York City, like, that doesn't happen. So that, like, really caught me off guard, because she knows I can't even speak to her, and she's, like, made it her mission to, like, get me where I need to be. And I've had a lot of experiences like that, and I'm like, wow, Chinese people are just so patient with that. I don't know if I would have been that patient, vice versa. And, like, it's been that way for a long time. Like, they know that either we just got there and don't know the language, or just never really learned it, and still they don't even, like, roll their eyes at you. Like, that surprises me, but how beautiful is that, you know?
Yeah. Have you done some travel outside of Shanghai? Have you been to...
Yeah. I went to, outside of, like, China specifically too, I went to Thailand, which was really, really cool. I went to an amazing electronic festival with my boyfriend.
Right.
And it was so cool. It's called Wonder Fruit. And on top of having incredible acts from all different genres, their ethos is, like, no single-use plastic on the site. All the food is, like, local farms that come in and set up stands, and, like, you get it on, like, banana woven plates and chopsticks and all that, and it was just so cool and really wholesome. Inner Mongolia, we went to a really cool techno festival out there.
Yeah, I saw, like, a photo where you were just, like, in the desert, Mongolian desert.
That was crazy too, because a friend of ours, a Chinese friend, Adriana, she came to us one day and was like, there's this festival going on in Inner Mongolia, and I'm like, cool, do they have, like, a website or, like, photos? She's like, no, there's no advertisement. And we were like, well, all right, let's just fly out there. So a lot of us flew out there and trusted her.
Way to promote it.
Yeah, there was literally, like, no promo for it, but we were just like, okay. Why not? Yeah, I've never been in a desert before, so that was also super cool. It was just, like, sand dunes as far as you could see on one side, mountains as far as you could see on the other side, and then this, like, cool little techno festival in the sand with awesome DJs and Mongolian taco trucks. They were, like, the best food I've ever had in my life. Like, so good. That was awesome too. Been to Ningbo, been to Moganshan. Where else? Hong Kong.
Now, were some of these for shows with Fliphouse or Snuff Disco? Or I know we're getting a little ahead.
Yeah. We went to Beijing with Fliphouse, and that was a really cool show. I'd never been in Beijing before. And then we went to Tianjin on the way back, and that's like a random little city, you know, so, like, we didn't expect it to be that great. Yeah. But the Tianjin show was so much more fun than Beijing, when they're just, like, throwing down and going ham, and we went with Rat King, you know, which is also such a huge energy, and we got this, like, Airbnb, just Fliphouse, Rat King, me with just, like, 18 wily dudes, you know, like, beer everywhere. It was so cool. They had, like, a VR room, and, like, this Tianjin Airbnb was, like, the coolest place. It's so decked out, but it's in the middle of nowhere, so it's cheap as hell, you know? But it was so dope, yeah. What
an experience. Rat King. We've had the boys come in. It was actually the first time I've ever had a band in here.
Oh, so fun.
Trying to fit the 4 guys. And just every sort of minute or so.
Yeah, they can't be tamed, and that's why I love those guys.
They're like little teddy bears. Mm-hmm. When they come in, they just open themselves up. Just like, yeah.
That's the joke, right?
Yeah.
Like,
and then they get on stage and they
it's awesome.
Kill.
It's so cool.
Great guys, great musician. So, let's switch topics. I also noticed you have a few tattoos.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm always interested because I don't actually have any, and for being in a band for such a long time, it's one of the first cliche sort of questions that I get asked all the time, like, why don't you have any tattoos? And it's like, well, no, I don't know, just
Yeah.
never sort of been into it.
I mean,
But-
when it comes to that, though, sorry to cut you off, but I've sort of also come to the conclusion that, like, in this day and age, in 2022, like, not having tattoos is, like, just as punk
Yeah.
as having a tattoo. That's the way I look at it, because, like, yeah, they look cool and they have this, like, kind of stigma, but, like, anybody can get tattoos, you know? So, like, if it's not your thing, like, that's also a creative choice.
There you go, yeah.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask, do you have a specific designer that does it? Do you design your own tattoos, and are there stories behind it?
So no specific style. I mean, I like black work personally. Like for me, I really like the stark black ink on skin. I got one tattoo in the States, which was on my neck. I had long hair at the time, so it didn't feel like a huge commitment. But it's from my favorite video game of all time,
Right.
Shadow of the Colossus, on the PS2, 2005. And that game is like, you know how people have their like Legend of Zelda? That's
Yes.
my Zelda. Me and my best friend Devin just like grew up playing it for hours and hours and hours and hours. And I like the symbol because it looks like just a symbol and it's interpretive, but it means that to me. And then when I moved here the first year, I was walking down Jululu.
So no tattoos prior to China?
Just the one.
Okay.
Just the one on my neck, yeah. And then was walking down Jululu, and I peered into this shop called Wild Tattoo, and there was this frog just like staring back at me, and I locked eyes with it. It was on a flash sheet, and I was like, that frog, there's something about it. And the person I was with was like, what? That's so dumb. That's so dumb. And I took my other friend to see it, and I was like, what do you think? I think I want to get this tattoo. And she's like, yeah, but it doesn't have enough eyes. And I was like, okay. So when I went in and I talked to the artist about it, he was like, yeah, we can add an eye, no problem. And I got this on my leg, this frog dude. I don't know if you can kind of see.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I can't explain it, honestly. I just I saw it and I was like, that needs to be on my body, like, ASAP. I just had this connection.
Are they expensive here to get? Because I know friends in Australia that they'll have like half of it or a quarter of it. It's like, oh yeah, next pay I'll do the next part of it, and yeah.
Yeah, you kind of want to avoid cheap tattoos because, like, you get what you pay for.
Yeah.
It's kind of the standard rule, but, I mean, we have kind of good jobs here, you know, compared to, like, the lower working class, so it's affordable to me, but a lot of them actually have been free for collaborating and all that. Like this one, I DJ'd at an event, and one of the organizers was a tattoo artist, so it was just sort of huge discount.
Yeah.
Buy free. And then this butterfly one, I was learning how to tattoo from a friend of mine named Smoke, and he texted me one morning. He's like, let's put a tattoo on you today. And I was like, no way. Unless so I drew this moth myself, and I make it so it's on the elbow.
Oh,
it
yeah,
can
right.
fold and come out, and yeah, this is the only one I've really designed, but I like with tattoo artists' work, like, you're sort of coming together and you're appreciating their style, and you have this moment, you know, it's this procedure, you know, and it's like this ancient practice.
Yeah.
So for me, going into that relationship that's like passing trains in the night, sort of, and having that be a part of you forever, and that person being a part of you forever, essentially. That's always been really special to me. So I really enjoy that process.
Does it hurt?
Yeah, and every time I get a
'Cause,
tattoo, I forget how much it hurts.
Because someone says it's like a bee sting. It's like, come on, there's guys in pain. Like you can see the blood coming out of his arms. So
I've learned to really like it, because it's just a very specific kind of intense pain. It's kind of like fiery on your skin a little bit, but if you're going into it with like an intention, you're sort of like, you grit your teeth and you're like, you focus in on that intention, at least for me. So it's special in that way.
And a 40-degree heat, middle of the summer in Shanghai, you're an art teacher. You covering up?
No, my school's actually really chill about it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Okay.
they were like tattoos, piercings. You know, it's the modern century, and I think a lot of the world is sort of coming around to that.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool.
That's my feeling anyway. I mean, and I know I'm gonna be an artist for the rest of my life, so
Maybe.
I'm not going into accounting, and I'm definitely not going to be a lawyer. So I sort of chose my path.
Yes.
大家好, I'm Bala from Bala Simple Chinese School. If you are a beginner, intermediate, advanced, looking for HSK study, business Chinese, or simply want to improve your everyday communication, I'm the teacher for you. Come and join me for a free travel class at Bala Simple Chinese School.